Our next speaker is Dr. Prabhakaran Paleri, the holder of a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering with nuclear engineering, University of Kerala, a master's degree in business administration from the University of Madras, fellowship in shipping management from Narodam Moraji Institute of Shipping, Mumbai, master's degree in strategic studies from National University, Washington DC, PhD degree in business administration and strategic studies from the University of Madras. He has served as the former of the Director General of Indian Coast Guard, with also naval and marine customs background. Presently, he is an author and researcher in management and strategic circles. Dr. Prabhakaran will enlighten us on climate change and rising sea level, need for an international regime for displaced people, and geoproperty rights. Thank you.
Distinguished Chair and all you fine people who are gathered here, I'm going to talk on a futuristic subject for which I feel that we got to act today. This, they say normally you should not jump to conclusions, but I thought that we jump to conclusions immediately. There is no national or international regime to govern the issues of people displaced by sea level rise at this moment. The world is going to get inundated by sea level rise. If you want to know how it's going to happen, you just go outside and see how your roads are getting inundated. The difference is that water will recede, but in this case, the water may not go back for thousands of years. This presentation, if you have to understand, you want to read my paper first and then try to get access to the presentation also. The period I'm calculating is for 35 years because the United Nations said, anyway, whatever you may do, water will still rise for 2 feet. The problem is that many people will be displaced internally and externally due to sea level rise that's already on. There are no responsibilities to face the situation. That is the problem. I have 5 hypotheses and one more which I have decided to delete deliberately. But the one which is deleted is the most important because sea level rise will be slow and uneven, which we do not know it yet, because that will be the key factor in taking a decision. This presentation, the hypothesis which I have given this presentation are positive or null, but not negative. Let's examine them. Sea levels are rising due to global warming. It's a positive thing, otherwise we wouldn't have had so many agencies talking about it and worried about it. But in my paper I have mentioned about some of those people who said, look, Mars is also getting heated, and why don't we have climate change regime there? But that's not relevant here. So the recommendation for this positive hypothesis is analyze it pragmatically to examine whether it can be prevented, preempted, or if inevitable, the damages can be mitigated. Preemption and prevention are the only actions we can take against a threat. Once it hits the target, you can only mitigate the damages. That every military person knows. Sometimes you may not be able to prevent or preempt. In that case, you go to see how we can minimize the damage. The next hypothesis is the rise will displace people and deprive them of their properties. Imagine the entire Maldivians sailing into or flying down to Colombo because they have no place to go. What will be the situation? Imagine the entire Kiribati, the people of Kiribati going to Fiji Islands or New Zealand. What will happen? And that too in 2050 it will be about 8 billion people in the world by that time. So recommendation is that identify and define such people. The first case of environmental refugee was in Auckland last year, where a Kiribati citizen went to the court saying that he should be given asylum as a environment or refugee, and the court ruled that we can't give it because you are not a refugee. So we have to see how do you call about these people. Examine the issues that are likely to come up, including collateral problems. There is no law existing to respond positively. That is true. The judgment in a test case that in Auckland 2013, second clause, the only law available regarding the sea, doesn't mention anything about sea level rise. So we have to create international as well as domestic response regimes, rules and regulations. Coming to the next hypothesis, UNCLOS is an expert law, but it is asynchronous with sea level rise. Hence, incomplete to meet the requirements of the world inundated by the ocean. UNCLOS took about 25 years, but it is a static aspect, whereas the world is dynamic. Asynchronous means there is no provision to fix the maritime zones with respect to sea level rise. As and when the sea level rises, the maritime zones will come closer to you. So that is why I call it state, and there is no provision clause to talk about it. And as it is an international law which is horizontal. So recommendation is that freeze baselines and maritime zones on a date allowing acceptable time to governments to establish them under international law under amendments and adjust to law of the sea. Make law of the sea synchronized with sea level rise. It will call for the next clause, the fifth one, that may take a long time to conclude. That's why we have 35 years, assuming that it will take another 25 years to fix a new law to cater for the requirements of the displaced people because sea level rise. Perhaps we may be able to do that. The final hypothesis which I have is that there will be collateral issues. This is a null hypothesis because it's not proven. But based on parametric forecast, we can say there can be many other issues coming out of sea level rise other than displacement of people. One of them will be increase in human smuggling and trafficking. Please understand, in a research which we have carried out, we found that human smuggling and trafficking is the second biggest or largest money spinning crime in the world. The demand for human smuggling and trafficking will go when there are many displaced people. It happened even yesterday that they found people who have been trapped off Australia. Just a week back they found people in a full container load in the UK. It's happening every day. It is the second largest money spinning transnational as well as organized crime. It will increase when people are displaced because of sea level rise. Migration under the guise of displaced people. There may be many people who is getting into other countries as if he or she is affected by sea level rise. Ethnic issues, demographic issues, geoproperty issues because they are losing the property. So how will you settle the property issues subsequently? Economic issues, environmental issues, and a host of others which we have to study further. My overall conclusion is that the issue is factual and recommendations are believed to be pragmatic, therefore the matter is for consideration of governments and international organizations. You can see an island here, this is in Kiribati. The people have left their home and went interned. Now what will happen? The entire island is inundated by water like this. Where will they go? This is another island in one of the South Pacific, in one of the islands in South Pacific Ocean, where the villagers just came back nostalgically to see the old village, how it is now. They found the water is still there. And they are standing there, you can see from their expressions, it is not possible for them to live there for long. Now when is this going to happen? According to the IPCC, that unless the world, developing nations, not developed nations, cut down the carbon signature, cut down the carbon emission, etc., they won't be able to hold the sea level rise at the 2 feet level. That means you and accept 2 feet increase by 2050. But 2 feet is enough to sink Maldives, Lakshadweep, and many parts of the coastal mainland. So this is the problem, that is what we have addressed. I have quite a few references here, which you have to see additional to the references in my paper, and perhaps more than explaining this further, my aim was only to draw your attention, and I see a lot of students here from doing law and many officer cadets, and you are the generation who are going to face the wrath of the sea, and you got to think about making the elders do something about it. I would like to put a pause to both the people, that is students as well as the officer cadets. Some of you are listening. My question is, take 2 countries, geopolitical entities, Sri Lanka, your own, and Cuba, on the other side of the world. Tell me, are they islands or not? Don't say now. Think about it. If you say these 2 countries are islands, then I will argue they are not. If you say they are not islands, then I will argue they are. That's the beauty of law. That is the catch today. Thank you very much.